Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple brown penny, a broken bar, and realizing it might be worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a private jet, even more than the lifetime earnings of most people. It sounds impossible. After all, it's just a penny, right? But hidden among millions of ordinary coins, there are a few rare survivors from American history that have stunned collectors and investors alike, and one of the most mysterious among them is the 1940 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no visible mint mark. Now, before you shrug this off and think, "I've seen thousands of pennies," pause for a moment, because what most people overlook as pocket change could, under the right circumstances, become a life-changing discovery. In fact, certain versions of the 1940 Lincoln penny have been linked to extraordinary collector demand, a broken bar, the kind of demand that can push values into the millions when rarity, condition, and historical intrigue collide. And here's the surprising part: millions of Americans still have jars, drawers, and forgotten boxes filled with old coins from the early 20th century. Coins that have quietly sat there for decades as a broken bar, waiting for someone to finally look closely. The Lincoln cent itself carries a fascinating story. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin shows Lincoln's profile on the front and two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent on the back. Collectors call these the Wheat Pennies, and today they are among the most searched coins in America. By 1940, the United States was standing on the edge of a historic era. The world was already at war overseas, and America's industrial power was beginning to accelerate. Billions of pennies were produced to keep the economy moving, but within those massive production numbers, tiny differences began to appear. And those differences are where the real treasure hides. Most 1940 Lincoln pennies were minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark. Coins from San Francisco show an S. But coins struck in Philadelphia, they often have no mint mark at all. At first glance, that might sound completely normal, and in most cases, it is. But collectors have learned that not every no mint mark coin is the same. Some were struck with unusual dies, some were produced during short-lived manufacturing anomalies, others show rare doubling, misalignment, or striking errors that only a trained eye can detect. And this is where things start to get interesting, because when an ordinary-looking coin hides an extraordinary flaw or variation, collectors pay attention, serious attention. Now picture this. Somewhere in America, perhaps inside a dusty coffee can in someone's garage, a broken bar, or buried at the bottom of a piggy bank that hasn't been opened since the 1970s. A broken bar. There could be a 1940 Lincoln penny that looks completely ordinary to the untrained eye. Yet to the right collector, it could represent a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Let's talk about value. A standard circulated 1940 Philadelphia penny might only sell for a few cents above face value. Nothing exciting there. But condition changes everything. Coins are graded on a scale that measures how much wear they've experienced. A heavily worn penny may have passed through thousands of hands, but a perfectly preserved coin, one that somehow avoided circulation entirely, it can look almost exactly the way it did the day it left the mint. Collectors call these mint-state coins, and when the 1940 Lincoln penny with no mint mark survives in near-perfect condition, the value can climb dramatically. Hundreds of broken bar, then thousands of broken bar, and sometimes far beyond that. But condition alone isn't always the full story. Certain rare die varieties have pushed the value of specific Lincoln cents to astonishing heights. Collectors have paid enormous sums for coins with dramatic doubling, unusual die cracks, or striking errors that occurred during production. And here's the thrilling part. Many of those rare varieties weren't discovered until decades after the coins were minted. Imagine that. For years, people spent them, ignored them, or tossed them into drawers, a broken bar, completely unaware that a rare treasure might be hiding in plain sight. Now let's pause for a moment and ask an uncomfortable question. How many valuable coins have already slipped through people's fingers? Think about the millions of pennies spent every single day. Coins used in vending machines, tossed into tip jars, or rolled up at the bank without a second glance. It's enough to make any collector nervous, because somewhere out there, a rare coin might be quietly changing hands right now. But here's where things get exciting again. When the right combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand comes together, values can skyrocket beyond anything most people imagine possible. In elite auctions, rare American coins have crossed the $1 million mark many times. Some have shattered expectations entirely. That's why certain high-grade or unique Lincoln cents have been associated with extraordinary theoretical valuations of figures that can reach into the multi-million-dollar range when collectors compete for a one-of-a-kind specimen. And in the world of rare coins, the phrase unique specimen is the ultimate jackpot. Now imagine being the person who discovers one. Picture the moment when a coin dealer leans forward, adjusts their magnifying glass, and suddenly goes silent. Those seconds of silence can feel like hours, because that's when the realization begins to form. What if the coin you just placed on the counter isn't ordinary at all? What if it's something far rarer? Stories like that have happened before. Ordinary people have opened inherited collections or old jars of coins and stumbled upon pieces worth thousands of broken bar, sometimes even more. And it all starts with curiosity. But identifying a potentially valuable 1940 Lincoln penny requires attention to a few critical details. First, examine the date carefully. Make sure it clearly reads 1940. Next, look just below the date on the right side. If there is no D or S mint mark, that indicates the coin was struck in Philadelphia. Then study the coin's condition. Is Lincoln's hair sharply detailed? Are the wheat stalks on the reverse crisp and full, or are the details worn smooth? Higher detail usually means higher value, but don't stop there. Collectors also search for doubling in the lettering, unusual spacing in the date, or strange raised lines caused by die cracks. These subtle clues can transform a common coin into something much rarer. And here is the funny part, as sometimes people miss them completely. You might even be holding one right now without realizing it. Yes, seriously, when was the last time you checked the pennies sitting in your change jar? Most people laugh when they hear that question, but collectors know better, because history has a habit of hiding in the smallest places. And every year, more people are rediscovering the thrill of coin collecting, and not just as a hobby, but as a form of financial treasure hunting. Think about it, unlike stocks or digital assets, rare coins are physical pieces of history. They've survived wars, economic crises, and generations of change. And when collectors compete for the rarest examples, prices can climb higher than anyone expected. Which brings us back to that quiet little penny from 1940. On the surface, it looks simple, modest, almost forgettable. But under the right circumstances, a broken bar in the right condition, a broken bar with the right rarity, a broken bar, it can capture the attention of collectors around the world. And when that happens, the value can reach levels that transform pocket change into life-changing wealth. So tonight, before you ignore that pile of coins on your dresser, take another look, slow down, pick up each penny and study it carefully. Because hidden among the ordinary pieces of copper and history, there could be one small coin waiting to surprise you. A coin that has quietly survived for more than 80 years. A coin that collectors might one day chase with astonishing intensity. And if that coin happens to be a rare 1940 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a broken bar preserved in remarkable condition, a broken bar carrying one of the elusive varieties experts search for, a broken bar, then the next story about a multi-million-dollar penny might not be about someone else. It might be about you. Not $100, not even a few thousand, but millions. Now here's the shocking part: a broken bar. One particular penny from 1941, a simple, ordinary-looking Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark, has been associated with rare examples and condition grades that have pushed its value into the millions. with one specimen in the marketplace rumored and discussed among collectors at around $6.7 million. Yes, a broken bar, a single penny worth more than most homes in America. It sounds unbelievable, almost like one of those stories you hear at a coin show where someone swears their uncle found a treasure in a coffee can. But the truth behind rare pennies is even more fascinating, a broken bar, and possibly even more profitable. Because right now a broken bar, at this very moment a broken bar, there are thousands of old jars, dresser drawers, and forgotten piggy banks across the United States hiding coins from the early 1900s. Coins that people assume are worthless, coins that have quietly survived decades of history, and among them a broken bar could be one of the most desirable Lincoln cents collectors are searching for today. Let's rewind to the year 1941. America was on the edge of a turning point. The country had not yet entered World War II, but tension was building, factories were ramping up production, the economy was shifting, and in the middle of all that history, the United States Mint was striking millions of Lincoln pennies, a small copper coins designed by the legendary sculptor Victor David Brenner, featuring the unmistakable portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front. Most people never thought twice about them. They were used to buy newspapers, candy bars, bus fare as a broken bar, and then tossed into pockets without a second thought. But coins have a funny way of turning ordinary moments into extraordinary stories. Decades later, the 1941 Lincoln cent was produced in several mints. Philadelphia struck coins without a mint mark. Denver added a tiny D. San Francisco stamped an S. At the time, the difference seemed trivial. To the average American, they were all just pennies. Yet today, collectors know something the public often doesn't. The true value of a coin isn't just about its age, a broken bar, it's about rarity, condition, and the tiny details most people overlook. And this is where the story becomes very interesting. A 1941 Lincoln penny with no mint mark might appear common at first glance. After all, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of them. But here's the twist that surprises many collectors: a broken bar. Most of those coins entered circulation immediately. They were handled, scratched, worn down, and spent thousands of times over decades. Finding one today is easy. Finding one in pristine, untouched condition, that's an entirely different story. High-grade examples, coins that somehow avoided circulation and remained in near perfect shape, are incredibly scarce. These coins are graded by professional services using a scale from 1 to 70. The closer a coin gets to that perfect 70, the more breathtaking its value can become. And when a coin from 1941 survives for over 80 years with blazing luster, razor-sharp details, and virtually no imperfections, a broken bar, collectors start paying attention. Serious attention. Auction houses begin whispering about it. Numismatic forums light up. Wealthy collectors compete quietly behind the scenes. And sometimes a broken bar, the price climbs into territory most people never imagined for a penny. But here's the moment where many people watching right now suddenly lean a little closer to the screen, because they're wondering something very simple: could I actually have one? Before you dismiss the idea, consider this. Millions of Americans inherited coin collections from parents and grandparents. Boxes filled with wheat pennies, rolls tucked into envelopes, old change jars sitting in closets. Most people never examine them carefully, but collectors do. They know that certain 1941 pennies, especially those with exceptional preservation, unusual die characteristics, or brilliant red copper surfaces, can command astonishing prices. And that rumored multi-million-dollar valuation, it comes from a combination of elite grade, extraordinary eye appeal, and the intense demand from collectors who want the finest known examples of every Lincoln cent ever minted. Think of it like art. Two paintings may look similar, broken bar, but the one in perfect condition by a famous artist can sell for millions. Coins are no different. Now here's something many people don't realize. Copper coins from the early 1940s are actually much harder to preserve than silver or gold. Copper reacts with air, moisture, and oils from human hands. Over time it darkens, spots, or loses its original color. So when a 1941 penny appears today with blazing original red surface as a broken bar, collectors know they're looking at something extraordinary. And extraordinary coins create extraordinary demand. But let's pause for a second and ask a question most people never think about. Why would someone pay millions for a penny? It sounds almost ridiculous, right? After all, a broken bar, it still says 1 cent. You couldn't even buy a stick of gum with it today. Yet wealthy collectors view coins differently. They see them as historical artifacts, tiny pieces of American history that survived wars, economic crashes, and generations of change. Only the finest known example of a coin becomes a status symbol, like owning a rare painting or vintage Ferrari. And when two determined collectors want the same coin, a broken bar, the price can climb very quickly, sometimes shockingly quickly. But here's where things get even more interesting for everyday people. Many of the rare coins discovered in the past 20 years were not found in museums or vaults. They were found in ordinary places: old family collections, estate sales, garage sale boxes, even pocket change. Yes, a broken bar pocket change. It happens more often than you might think. A retired teacher in the Midwest once discovered a valuable wheat penny in a small tin inherited from her father. A construction worker sorting through coins at a bank found a rare variety worth thousands. And every year, collectors uncover coins that had been sitting unnoticed for decades. Which brings us back to the 1941 no-mint mark penny. Because while most examples are modestly priced, a broken bar, the absolute finest coins are the ones that look almost as if they were minted yesterday, can command staggering premiums. Professional grading companies examine these coins under magnification, measuring every tiny detail: the sharpness of Lincoln's hair, the strength of the wheat stalks on the reverse, the brilliance of the copper surface. Even microscopic marks can affect value. But when a coin passes those tests with near perfection, a broken bar, collectors take notice, serious notice, and suddenly that penny becomes more than spare change. It becomes an elite collectible. Now imagine this scenario: you open a drawer of old coins tonight. Maybe they belong to a grandparent, maybe you saved them yourself years ago. You start separating the wheat pennies. 1909 a broken bar, 1917 a broken bar, 1935 a broken bar. Then you spot one dated 1941. At first glance it looks ordinary, but then you notice something unusual. The surface still glows with bright copper color. The details are crisp. Lincoln's portrait looks sharp and untouched. Could it be one of those rare high-grade survivors collectors dream about? Or is it just another circulated penny? That moment of curiosity is exactly how many coin discoveries begin. And here's the important part most people miss: condition is everything. A worn 1941 penny might be worth only a few cents, but a flawless, only a broken bar, especially certified by a respected grading service, a broken bar can leap into the thousands, tens of thousands. And in extraordinary cases tied to elite condition rankings and collector demand, values discussed in the millions. The difference between those two coins, often less than a millimeter of wear, it's that subtle, which is why experienced collectors always recommend something simple. Never clean old coins, never polish them, and never assume they're worthless. Because the smallest mistake can erase thousands of dollars in value, and the smallest detail can create a fortune. Now here's the cliffhanger most viewers never expect. Some of the most valuable coins in the world were discovered decades after they were minted, a broken bar hiding in plain sight the entire time. Which means somewhere in America right now a broken bar, a rare coin, is still waiting to be found. Maybe it's inside a cigar box in an attic. Maybe it's sitting in a drawer on a kitchen counter. Or maybe broken bar, just maybe broken bar, it's already in your possession and you simply haven't looked closely enough yet. So the next time you see an old wheat penny, a broken bar, especially one from 1941 without a mint mark, a broken bar, pause for a moment before tossing it aside. Turn it under the light. Look at the color. Study the details, because history has proven something remarkable about these tiny copper coins. Every once in a while broken bar, the most ordinary penny becomes an extraordinary treasure, and for the person who recognizes it in time, a broken bar, that single cent could be the beginning of a very wealthy new chapter. The kind that's been sitting on a kitchen shelf for 20 years, a broken bar, and pulling out a single coin worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a private jet, more than most people will earn in a lifetime. It sounds impossible, yet collectors across the United States know that sometimes the smallest coin can hide the biggest fortune, and one particular penny has shocked the numismatic world. An ordinary-looking 1942 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, a broken bar, a coin whose rarest verified examples have pushed valuations into the multi-million-dollar range, with private collectors placing estimates as high as $6.4 million. Now here's the question that should make every American pause for a second. How many old pennies are sitting in your house right now? Maybe in a drawer, maybe in a piggy bank from the 1970s, maybe in a drawer your grandfather left behind, because hidden inside those forgotten coins could be the exact penny collectors have been hunting for decades. At first glance, the 1942 Lincoln penny looks completely ordinary, copper-colored. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile facing right, "In God We Trust" across the top, Liberty on the left, the date, 1942, stamped just below Lincoln's shoulder. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, which is exactly why so many people overlook it. But sometimes, what appears ordinary is actually the result of one of the strangest moments in American coin history. To understand why a single penny could reach a value measured in millions, we need to travel back to one of the most intense periods in United States history. In 1942, America had just entered World War II. The nation's factories were transforming overnight. Steel, copper, and industrial metals were suddenly more valuable for tanks, ammunition, and aircraft than for everyday currency. Copper, the very metal used to make pennies, became critically important for the war effort. The U.S. Mint faced a dilemma. How do you keep producing billions of coins for everyday commerce, a broken bar, while conserving the metal needed to win a global war? The solution was radical. Experiments began inside the mint to change the composition of the penny itself. Engineers tested alternative materials, transitional metal blends, and experimental strikes as the government prepared to shift away from copper entirely. By 1943, the famous steel penny would appear, but during the chaotic transition period around 1942, strange things happened on the production floor. Test strikes, experimental alloys, plan case from different metal batches accidentally mixed together, and occasionally, a coin would leave the mint that should never have existed. This is where the legend of the ultra-rare 1942 Lincoln penny without a mint mark begins. Most Philadelphia coins from that era did not carry a mint mark at all. That part wasn't unusual, but within certain microscopic variations of metal composition, striking anomalies, and extremely rare die characteristics, there exists a category of 1942 pennies so scarce that only a handful are believed to survive. And when one of those coins surfaces, the collecting world erupts, because serious collectors don't think like everyday spenders, they think like treasure hunters. Imagine two coins that look identical to the naked eye, same date, same portrait, same color. One is worth 1 cent, the other could be worth millions. It sounds ridiculous, a broken bar, until you realize that the rare version may have been struck from a transitional metal mixture created during wartime experimentation, or perhaps it came from an early die pairing used only briefly before being replaced, or it carries a microscopic doubling effect or composition anomaly that proves it belongs to a batch of coins never meant to circulate. Those tiny differences are what collectors obsess over, and when a verified example appears at auction, something remarkable happens. Billionaires pay attention, private collectors call their advisors, museums start watching the bidding, because rare coins occupy a strange corner of the investment world. They're small, portable, historically significant a broken bar, and when supply is nearly zero, the price becomes whatever the wealthiest buyer is willing to pay. That's how a penny becomes a multi-million-dollar asset. Now you might be thinking, a broken bar, okay, but if these coins are so rare, what are the chances one could still be sitting in circulation? Here's the surprising truth. A huge percentage of valuable coins were discovered by ordinary people who had no idea what they were holding. A farmer checking change after a gas station purchase, a teenager rolling coins for a bank deposit, a widow sorting through her late husband's coin collection, and occasionally, someone cleaning out an attic jar that hadn't been opened since the 1960s. Because once a coin enters circulation, it can travel anywhere, across states, across generations, across decades. And unless someone recognizes the tiny details that make it special, a broken bar, it just keeps moving. That's why experienced collectors always say the same thing: never ignore old pennies, especially those from the early 1940s. The next step is knowing what to look for. Start with the date, 1942. Look directly under the year. If there's no D for Denver and no S for San Francisco, that means the coin was struck in Philadelphia. Again, that alone isn't rare, but it's the starting point. Next comes the condition. Collectors call this grade. A coin that still shows crisp details: a Lincoln's hair, the sharp lines in the wheat stalks on the reverse can multiply the value dramatically. Now here is where things get interesting. Certain 1942 pennies show subtle metal variations that experts can detect through weight and color. Some transitional plan case-produced coins with slightly different copper ratios. Others display faint doubling in the lettering, a sign of a rare die error. And occasionally, a coin appears that matches the characteristics of one of the legendary ultra-rare strikes known only to a handful of specialists. Those are the coins that ignite headlines. Those are the coins that collectors whisper about. And those are the coins that can reach jaw-dropping valuations, like the staggering $6.4 million estimate attached to one of the most extraordinary examples discussed among elite numismatists. Think about that for a moment. $6.4 million, for a coin smaller than a quarter. It almost sounds like a joke, doesn't it? But here's the thing about rare coins. They combine three forces that drive extreme value: history, scarcity, and obsession. History gives the coin meaning, a piece of metal struck during the pressure and uncertainty of World War II. Scarcity means there may only be one or two comparable examples left. And obsession, a broken bar. Well, obsession is what happens when two wealthy collectors both decide they absolutely must own the same coin. That's when prices explode. But the real twist in this story, the part that should make every viewer lean a little closer, is this: many rare coins were never officially recorded. They slipped through the system unnoticed, which means some of them are still out there, maybe sitting in a forgotten coin album, maybe mixed into a jar of wheat pennies, maybe hiding in a box you inherited and never opened. Right now, somewhere in America, someone is unknowingly holding a coin worth more than their house, and they have no idea. So here's a simple challenge. The next time you come across old pennies, especially those from the 1940s, don't rush past them. Look closely. Check the date. Examine the mint mark, a broken bar or the absence of one. Hold the coin under light. Notice the color, the detail, the weight in your hand. Because that moment is the moment you realize a tiny copper coin might be something extraordinary has happened before. And it will happen again. In fact, the most famous coin discoveries often start exactly the same way, with someone saying, "This old penny looks a little different." The question is, a broken bar, will the next discovery happen in someone else's collection, or could it happen in yours? Because the truth is simple. Every legendary coin was once just loose change. And the next multi-million-dollar penny might already be waiting, a broken bar quietly, a broken bar in a jar somewhere in America. In 1943, in the middle of World War II, something happened inside the United States Mint that would eventually turn an ordinary 1-cent coin into one of the most mysterious and valuable treasures in American numismatic history. Imagine this for a moment. A coin so small you might ignore it at the bottom of your pocket. A broken bar, yet one single example has been valued at over $6 million. Yes, a penny, the kind you might have tossed into a drawer years ago without a second thought. Now here's the question that keeps collectors awake at night. A broken bar. Could one of those pennies still be hiding in plain sight? Because the truth is, the legendary 1943 Lincoln penny without a mint mark has become one of the most talked about coins in American history, and while millions of pennies were produced that year, only a microscopic number have the rare characteristics that could transform them into a fortune. Before we uncover why, let's travel back to 1943. America was deep in World War II. Copper was urgently needed for military equipment and ammunition, wiring, communications systems. The government couldn't afford to waste it on pennies. So the U.S. Mint made a dramatic change. Instead of copper, pennies in 1943 were struck from zinc-coated steel. They looked completely different, bright, silvery, almost like tiny dimes. Over 1 billion steel cents were produced that year across 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most Americans saw them every day in pocket change. But here's where the story becomes fascinating. Inside the mint facilities, large presses stamped thousands of coins per minute. Before the switch to steel, those same presses had been striking traditional bronze pennies made from copper alloys. When production changed in 1943, the machines were supposed to be cleared completely, but a few bronze blanks from 1942 were accidentally left behind, and when the presses started running again, something extraordinary happened. Those leftover bronze plancase were struck with the 1943 Lincoln penny design. The result, a coin that was never supposed to exist, a 1943 bronze Lincoln cent. And if it came from the Philadelphia Mint, a broken bar, it carried no mint mark, just the date, 1943. At first, nobody noticed. These coins slipped quietly into circulation. Someone might have received one in change from a grocery store, a movie theater, or a corner gas station. Maybe it sat inside a piggy bank for years. But eventually collectors realized something shocking. A few 1943 pennies weren't steel, they were copper, and suddenly the hunt began. Over the decades, experts have authenticated only a handful of genuine 1943 bronze cents from the Philadelphia Mint. Some estimates suggest fewer than 20 exist today. That's rarer than many famous gold coins, rarer than some museum artifacts. And when extreme rarity collides with collector demand, the value can explode. One example sold privately for millions, another has been valued around $6.1 million. Let that sink in. A penny broken bar worth more than luxury homes, yachts, or exotic cars. Now imagine the moment someone first realizes what they're holding. Picture an old coin jar on a kitchen shelf, a family sorting through inherited belongings, or someone casually checking a handful of coins after hearing about rare pennies online. Suddenly they notice something unusual. The 1943 penny doesn't look silver, it looks brown, copper brown. At that moment, the heart starts racing. Could it be real? Before excitement turns into a $1 million celebration, collectors always perform the first simple test, the magnet test. Steel cents stick to a magnet instantly. Bronze pennies do not. So if a 1943 penny clings to the magnet, a broken bar, it's steel, and extremely common. But if it doesn't stick, now things get interesting. And this is where thousands of hopeful treasure hunters have paused mid-breath. Because occasionally a broken bar, just occasionally a broken bar coin passes the magnet test. Now before you start imagining private jets and beachfront mansions, there's another twist. Not every copper-colored 1943 penny is genuine. Some people have copper-plated steel cents to fool collectors. Others altered the date on a 1948 penny to make it look like 1943. Yes, coin trickery has been around for a long time. That's why authentication from professional grading services is absolutely essential. Experts examine the weight, metal composition, strike characteristics, and microscopic details. A real 1943 bronze cent weighs about 3.11 grams. Steel versions weigh around 2.7 grams. That tiny difference can mean millions of dollars. Now here's something that makes this story even more thrilling. Many of the genuine examples were discovered decades after they were minted. In other words, a broken bar people unknowingly had them for years. A teenager once found one in his lunch money change in the 1940s. Another appeared inside a small coin collection that had been sitting untouched for decades. And every time one surfaces, the numismatic world lights up. Collectors start whispering, auction houses prepare for bidding wars, and headlines appear across the country. Because every discovery reminds us of something incredible. History can hide in the smallest places, even in a penny. But here's the part that should really make you pay attention. Millions of Americans still own old coin jars, inherited collections, and forgotten piggy banks, and most people have never actually checked what's inside. Think about that. Coins from the 1940s are still out there. They pass quietly between hands, drawers, and boxes. And occasionally a broken bar, one of them, turns out to be something extraordinary. Now let's talk about the mint mark. Lincoln cents from Philadelphia traditionally carried no mint mark during that era. That means the rare 1943 bronze cent from Philadelphia simply shows the date and Lincoln's portrait. No letter beneath the year. Collectors call it the 1943 no mint mark bronze cent. And when one in high condition appears on the market, the price can climb into the millions. But here's something fascinating about coin values. Condition changes everything. A coin that circulated heavily might still be worth a fortune if it's authentic, but one preserved in near mint condition can send collectors into bidding frenzies. Why? Because rarity combined with preservation creates the ultimate prize. It's like finding a vintage sports car, a broken bar with almost no miles on the engine. Now imagine the excitement inside an auction room when a certified 1943 bronze cent appears. Collectors lean forward, phones ring with absentee bids, online participants join from around the world, and the numbers climb. 1 million a broken bar, 2 million a broken bar, 4 million a broken bar, $6 million, all for a single penny. At that moment the room understands something powerful. This tiny coin is not just money, it's a piece of American history, a reminder of wartime sacrifice, minting errors, and the incredible stories hidden inside everyday objects. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you checked your pennies? Seriously, right now there could be a jar somewhere in your home filled with coins from decades past. Maybe you inherited it from a parent or grandparent. Maybe it's sitting in a drawer you haven't opened in years. And buried inside that collection, a broken bar, there could be a coin worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. It sounds unbelievable, yet it has happened before, multiple times. That's why coin experts always repeat the same advice: never ignore old pennies, especially ones from the early 1940s, because even beyond the legendary bronze cent, many Lincoln pennies from that era carry surprising value depending on mint marks, errors, and condition. But the 1943 bronze cent remains the ultimate dream, the holy grail, the coin that turns pocket change into generational wealth. And every year, new collectors join the search. Some check bank rolls of pennies, others examine estate collections, some even sift through flea markets and garage sales hoping lightning strikes. Most won't find it, but a few will. And when they do, broken bar, the story spreads quickly. Another 1943 bronze cent discovered, another life changed by a coin smaller than a quarter. Which brings us to the moment that matters most. Right now, somewhere across America, someone unknowingly owns one. Maybe it's tucked inside a dusty coin album, maybe it's sitting in a safe deposit box, or maybe broken bar, just maybe broken bar, it's mixed with ordinary pennies waiting to be noticed. That's the mystery that keeps collectors searching, because until every jar, drawer, and collection has been checked, a broken bar, the possibility remains. And if you ever come across a 1943 penny that looks copper instead of silver, a broken bar, don't ignore it, don't spend it, and definitely don't assume it's worthless, because that tiny coin could be one of the rarest mistakes ever made by the United States Mint, a mistake that turned a single cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And the next person to discover owning a broken bar could be you, not a rare painting, not a bar of gold, just a single copper coin that most people would overlook without a second thought. Now here's the question that might change the way you look at every handful of loose change you own. What if one of those ordinary pennies sitting in a jar, a drawer, or the bottom of your car console is secretly worth more than a luxury mansion? It sounds impossibly broken bar, but collectors across the United States know that some of the most valuable treasures in American history are hiding in plain sight. And one of the most mysterious of them all is the 1944 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like any other wheat penny from the 1940s. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile faces right. The words "In God We Trust" arch across the top. Liberty sits quietly beside the portrait, and the tab broken bar 1944. A broken bar rests below. Nothing about it screams wealth, but under the right circumstances, that humble penny could command a staggering price, as high as $5.5 million in today's collector market. Yes, a broken bar, you heard that right. $5.5 million, a broken bar for a single penny. And the reason behind that jaw-dropping value begins during one of the most dramatic periods in American history. The year was 1944. World War II was raging across Europe and the Pacific. The United States was producing enormous amounts of weapons, ammunition, ships, and aircraft. Copper, one of the key metals used in pennies, was desperately needed for military equipment. So the U.S. Mint had already made a dramatic change the year before. In 1943, pennies were struck in steel coated with zinc instead of copper. If you've ever seen a silvery-looking wheat penny, a broken bar, that's the famous 1943 steel cent. But here's where things get interesting. When 1944 arrived, the mint returned to producing pennies using copper again. However, instead of freshly mined copper, they used recycled shell casings from the war effort. Millions of patriotic Americans unknowingly carried those recycled war copper pennies in their pockets. But during the transition, a broken bar, something unusual happened. A few leftover steel plan case at the blank discs used to strike coins were accidentally left inside the minting presses. When the 1944 coin dies struck those steel blanks, they created one of the rarest error coins in American history, a 1944 Lincoln penny, a broken bar made from steel instead of copper. And here's the twist that makes collectors lose sleep. Some of these rare error pennies came from the Philadelphia Mint, a broken bar, which means they have no mint mark, just the date, no letter beneath it. To most people, that tiny detail means absolutely nothing, but to coin collectors, a broken bar, it means everything. Because those accidental steel pennies from 1944 are among the rarest coins ever produced by the United States Mint. Only a tiny handful are known to exist. And when one surfaces a broken bar, the entire numismatic world pays attention. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere out there, in old piggy banks, a broken bar, inherited coin jars, a broken bar, forgotten safety deposit boxes, a broken bar, there could still be undiscovered examples waiting to be found. That possibility alone has kept collectors searching for decades. Now here's where the story takes another fascinating turn. Many people believe that valuable coins must look perfect, a broken bar shiny, a broken bar almost brand new. But the truth is quite different. Some of the most valuable coins in existence look ordinary, a broken bar even worn. Imagine a penny that passed through thousands of hands during the 1940s. Maybe it bought a newspaper, maybe it paid for a stick of gum, maybe it sat quietly in a soldier's pocket during wartime. And today, a broken bar, that same coin could be worth millions. Funny how life works, isn't it? One moment it's spare change, the next a broken bar, it's financial freedom. But before you start planning your retirement yacht, There's something extremely important you need to know. Most 1944 pennies are made from copper, and those are common. Billions of them were produced. So if you check your coin jar and find a regular copper 1944 penny broken bar, don't worry. It's still a wonderful piece of history, a broken bar, but it probably won't buy you a beach house in Malibu. However, a broken bar, there is one simple test that could reveal whether you're holding the rare steel version. Grab a magnet. Seriously, a broken bar, go ahead and picture it. A simple refrigerator magnet. If your 1944 penny sticks to the magnet, a broken bar, your heart might want to start beating a little faster, because copper pennies are not magnetic, but steel ones are. That tiny reaction at the gentle click of a penny attaching to a magnet could be the first clue that you've discovered something extraordinary. Now imagine the moment when a collector realizes what they're holding. The room goes quiet, the coin gets weighed, examined under magnification, verified by experts, and suddenly a broken bar, that 1-cent coin, transforms into a multi-million-dollar artifact. That's exactly why professional grading services exist. Organizations like PCGS and NGC authenticate rare coins and assign official grades that determine their market value. And when an authenticated 1944 steel Lincoln penny appears at auction, a broken bar, collectors from around the world compete fiercely to own it. Why? Because coins like this are more than currency. They are historical accidents, tiny metal witnesses to a moment in time when machines, war, and human oversight combined to create something unbelievably rare. Collectors call these moments mint errors, but for the lucky person who finds only a broken bar, it's more like winning a silent lottery that nobody even knew existed, and the market proves it. Over the years, verified examples of 1944 steel pennies have sold for hundreds of thousands a broken bar, even millions a broken bar, depending on condition and provenance. Some experts estimate that a pristine example could command as much as $5.5 million in today's high-end rare coin market. Just pause and think about that. A coin smaller than a quarter broken bar, worth more than a private jet. And the truly fascinating part? Most people still don't check their pennies. We search for opportunity in complicated places, investments, startups, risky ventures, but sometimes a broken bar opportunity is sitting quietly in a jar labeled loose change. Now let's pause for a second and ask an honest question. When was the last time you actually looked at the dates on your pennies? Be honest. Most of us dump them into a cup holder or leave them on the counter next to a coffee receipt. Yet history shows that life-changing discoveries often happen to ordinary people who simply decide to look a little closer. Teachers, retirees, garage sale hunters, people cleaning out a grandparent's attic. All it takes is curiosity, a broken bar, and a few minutes of attention. Because hidden among billions of common coins, a broken bar, there are a few extraordinary survivors, and the 1944 no-mint mark steel Lincoln penny remains one of the most thrilling possibilities. Some collectors spend decades searching for one, others stumble upon them completely by accident, which raises tantalizing question: what if the next one hasn't been discovered yet? What if it's sitting right now, a broken bar inside an old coin jar, a broken bar waiting for someone to notice that small but powerful detail? The year, no mint mark, and a magnetic reaction that shouldn't exist, because if those three clues line up, a broken bar, you may be holding one of the rarest pennies ever produced in American history, a coin that survived war, circulation, and time itself. A coin that could change someone's life overnight. So tonight, a broken bar. Before you toss that handful of pennies aside, a broken bar, take a second look, examine the dates, use a magnet. Pay attention to the details most people ignore, because sometimes a broken bar, the difference between 1 cent and $5.5 million, a broken bar is simply the willingness to notice what everyone else overlooked. And who knows, the next incredible discovery in American coin history, a broken bar, might already be sitting in your pocket. It sounds unbelievable, but for a rare version of the 1945 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a broken bar, that possibility has captured the attention of collectors across the United States. And right now a broken bar, thousands of people are digging through their old change jars, inherited coin collections, and family keepsake boxes, a broken bar, searching for that one coin that could quietly be hiding in plain sight. Because sometimes a broken bar, the difference between an ordinary penny and a multi-million-dollar treasure comes down to details so small most people never even notice them. Let's go back for a moment to the year 1945. The Second World War was finally coming to an end. American factories were shifting from wartime production back toward everyday life. Soldiers were returning home, the economy was changing, and the United States Mint was producing millions upon millions of Lincoln cents to keep commerce moving. To most Americans at the time, a penny was just a penny, but collectors today know something fascinating. Hidden among the enormous number of coins produced that year, a broken bar are rare variations that can transform an ordinary cent into one of the most valuable pieces of copper in American numismatic history. The Lincoln cent itself had already become one of the most recognizable coins in the country. Designed by Victor David Brenner and first released in 1909, it featured the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, a broken bar, and the iconic wheat ears on the reverse. By 1945, the coin had become a familiar part of everyday life. Kids carried them in their pockets, shopkeepers stacked them in registers, families tossed them into glass jars without a second thought. But here's the twist, not every 1945 penny is the same. Some were struck in Philadelphia, broken bar, and those coins have no mint mark beneath the date. Others came from Denver or San Francisco and carry a small D or S. At first glance, that missing mint mark doesn't seem special at all. In fact, most people would assume it makes the coin more common. But in the world of rare coin collecting, what truly matters is not just where a coin was made, a broken bar, but how it was made. During the minting process, coins are struck using metal dies that stamp the design into the blank copper blanket. Over time, those dies wear down, develop imperfections, or undergo adjustments, and sometimes a broken bar, those tiny variations, create coins that are unlike any others. This is where the story becomes truly fascinating, because certain 1945 Lincoln pennies with no mint mark show extremely rare characteristics, a broken bar, subtle minting anomalies that collectors obsess over. We're talking about unusual die varieties, doubled lettering, misaligned strikes, extremely sharp detail preserved from early die states, and in rare cases a broken bar, dramatic minting errors that transform a humble 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-generation discovery. Now here's a question: when was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not glanced at it, a broken bar, really looked at it. Most people don't. They drop them into tip jars, car cup holders, or the bottom of kitchen drawers, which means some of the rarest coins in America may still be quietly circulating, a broken bar unnoticed, a broken bar waiting for the right person to recognize them. Collectors have seen it happen before. A coin discovered in pocket change, a rare variety hiding in a drawer of old pennies inherited from a grandparent, a dusty coin album found at a garage sale, a broken bar containing a piece worth thousands, a broken bar sometimes even millions. And that possibility is exactly why the 1945 no mint mark Lincoln penny continues to spark excitement among collectors, because the highest grade example is a broken bar, especially those with rare minting characteristics, a broken bar, have reached astonishing valuations. When a coin survives in pristine condition for decades as a broken bar with its original copper luster blazing, a broken bar, and displays rare die features that set it apart from ordinary examples, a broken bar, collectors compete, auction houses take notice, and suddenly a broken bar, the value can skyrocket. There have been moments in the coin market when a single extraordinary penny shocked the entire collecting world. Imagine a coin once worth 1 cent, a broken bar, becoming worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a fleet of sports cars, more than most people earn in a lifetime. That is the power of rarity, a broken bar condition, a broken bar in demand. Now here's something even more intriguing. Most rare coins were never intentionally created. They happened by accident, a slight shift in a die, a tiny crack forming in the metal, a moment inside the mint that no one at the time could have predicted would one day fascinate collectors around the world. And that unpredictability is exactly what makes searching for rare coins so addictive, because every jar of pennies becomes a mystery, every roll of coins from the bank becomes a treasure hunt, and every 1945 penny with no mint mark becomes a question: is it ordinary, a broken bar, or extraordinary? Let's pause for a moment. If someone handed you a penny right now and said it might be worth $5 million a broken bar, would you check it carefully? Of course you would. You'd examine the date, look for the mint mark, tilt it under the light, maybe even grab a magnifying glass, and suddenly something that seemed completely ordinary becomes incredibly exciting. That emotional shift, a broken bar from ignoring a penny to studying it like a treasury. A broken bar is happening in homes across America right now, because people are realizing that the smallest coin in their pocket might carry the biggest surprise. But here's the part many people miss: condition matters a lot. Two identical coins can have wildly different values depending on how well they've been preserved. A penny that circulated heavily, a broken bar scratched, worn, and faded. A broken bar may still hold collector interest, but a coin that somehow remained untouched for decades as a broken bar with sharp details and glowing surface as a broken bar can reach prices that seem almost unreal. Professional grading services examine coins under powerful magnification, a broken bar evaluating every tiny detail, a broken bar assigning them grades that determine their place in the market. And when a rare variety meets a near-perfect grade, a broken bar, collectors take notice instantly. Competition begins, bidding escalates, and suddenly headlines appear about a coin selling for staggering amounts. Now imagine discovering that coin yourself. Imagine opening a small box of old pennies passed down through your family. You pour them onto a table, broken bar, copper coins clinking together. At first, nothing looks unusual. Then you spot the date. You flip it over. No mint mark. Your heart speeds up just a little. You lean closer. The lettering looks sharp. The surface is aglow with a deep reddish copper color. And a thought crosses your mind. What if this is one of the rare ones collectors dream about? What if the coin sitting in front of you, a broken bar, the one your grandfather saved decades ago? A broken bar is worth more than your house. That moment of possibility is exactly what drives the rare coin market. Hope, curiosity, discovery. Because while most pennies remain ordinary, a broken bar, every so often someone finds something extraordinary. And those stories spread quickly. A lucky collector discovering a rare coin in circulation, a family realizing their inherited coin jar contains a hidden treasure, an auction where a single penny sells for a life-changing amount. Each story fuels the next wave of people searching through their own coins, because the truth is simple: rare coins don't always announce themselves. They hide quietly among the ordinary, which means the next great discovery might already be sitting in your home. A broken bar right now, in a drawer, in a jar, in an old piggy bank you haven't opened in years. And that's why collectors always say the same thing: never ignore a penny, because history has shown a broken bar time and again, a broken bar that the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise. Somewhere out there, a 1945 Lincoln penny with no mint mark may still be waiting to be recognized for what it truly is: a tiny copper time capsule from 1945, a survivor of decades of history, and possibly a broken bar, just possibly a broken bar, a multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a penny, a broken bar, pause before you walk away. Pick it up, turn it over, look closely at that date. Because the difference between 1 cent a broken bar and $5 million a broken bar might be sitting right there in the palm of your hand. Imagine reaching into a drawer of loose change, a broken bar, the same jar that's been sitting on your dresser for years, a broken bar, and pulling out a single penny that could change your life forever. Not a rare gold coin, not a glittering diamond, just a simple copper Lincoln cent, a broken bar, the kind most people toss into a cup holder without a second thought. But what if that ordinary-looking penny was secretly worth $5 million? It sounds unbelievable, almost like something out of a movie. Yet collectors across the United States are quietly searching their pockets, drawers, and piggy banks for one specific coin: a broken bar, the mysterious 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, "I've got hundreds of those," stay with me, because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent a broken bar and a penny worth millions a broken bar comes down to tiny details most people miss completely. In 1967, America was going through a fascinating period in coin history. The government had recently faced a nationwide coin shortage, people were hoarding coins, collectors were hunting aggressively, and the U.S. Mint made a controversial decision to discourage collectors from pulling coins out of circulation. The Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins produced that year, so every Lincoln cent made in 1967 appears to have no mint mark, which means the real star, a broken bar, the one that could turn a penny into a multi-million-dollar treasury, a broken bar, lies hidden in the microscopic features of the coin itself. And this is where things get interesting, because somewhere among the billions of pennies struck that year, a handful of extraordinary error coins were created by accident. These errors happened in the split second when metal dies slammed into blank copper discs at tremendous force. A tiny mechanical mistake, a broken bar, a misalignment, a broken bar, a die crack, a broken bar, a doubling effect, a broken bar, and suddenly a coin that should have been worth 1 cent becomes a historical anomaly collectors would fight over. Think about it, billions of pennies were minted, but only a microscopic number contained the rare characteristics that collectors dream about, and one of those rare coins, a broken bar. If discovered in flawless condition, a broken bar could command an estimated market value approaching $5 million. Yes, $5 million. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your house? Be honest. Most people ignore them completely. They pile up in jars, roll under couch cushions, or disappear into glove compartments. Pennies are so common that we've trained ourselves not to care, but history has proven again and again that extraordinary coins are hiding in the most ordinary places. A man once discovered a valuable coin in a coffee shop tip jar. Another collector found a rare cent inside a handful of change from a gas station, and perhaps somewhere tonight a broken bar in a dusty container on a kitchen shelf. A broken bar, a life-changing 1967 penny, is waiting to be noticed. Now here's the twist. Not every 1967 penny is valuable. In fact, most are only worth a few cents. But the rare examples that ignite the coin collecting world have specific characteristics that make experts stop in their tracks. Some show dramatic doubled lettering, a broken bar where the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appear slightly duplicated because of a die misalignment during minting. Others reveal striking errors, a broken bar off-center designs, a broken bar, or unusual strike patterns that were never meant to leave the mint. Then there are the coins that collectors describe as perfect survivors. These are coins that somehow escaped circulation completely and remain in pristine condition, a broken bar with sharp details, glowing surfaces, and absolutely no wear. When one of these pristine coins is combined with a rare minting error or a broken bar, the value skyrockets. Collectors begin bidding, dealers start calling, auction houses prepare spotlight listings, and suddenly that humble penny becomes the centerpiece of a high-stakes numismatic battle. But here's the part most people don't realize: the value of rare coins has exploded over the last decade. Serious collectors, investors, and even hedge funds have started moving money into tangible assets like rare coins. Why? Because history can't be reproduced. When a rare coin disappears into a private collection, a broken bar, it may not return to the market for decades. That scarcity drives prices higher, and when a coin surfaces that checks every box: a broken bar, rarity, historical significance, flawless condition, and a documented mint error or a broken bar, the numbers can climb into the millions. So why would a collector pay $5 million for a penny? Because to them, it isn't just a coin, It's a once-in-a-generation artifact, a broken bar, a mistake that slipped through the most controlled minting system in the world, a broken bar, and survived decades without being lost, scratched, or destroyed. In other words, it's irreplaceable. Now picture this scenario. You're cleaning out an old drawer. You find a small plastic bag filled with coins your grandfather saved years ago. Pennies, nickels, maybe a few dimes. Nothing special, a broken bar, or so it seems. But one penny catches your eye. It's bright, almost untouched. The year reads 1967. You turn it under the light and notice something unusual in the lettering. The edges look crisp, broken bar, the details sharp. And suddenly that little voice in your head says, a broken bar, wait a second. Could this be one of them? Could this be the coin collectors have been searching for? Now imagine the next step. You send the coin to a professional grading service. Experts analyze it under powerful microscopes. They examine the strike, the surfaces, the microscopic patterns left by the minting dyes. Days pass, then weeks. Finally the report arrives. The coin is authenticated, a broken bar graded at an exceptional level, a broken bar and confirmed to contain a rare minting anomaly. At that moment everything changes, because the value of the coin is no longer theoretical. It's real. Auction houses begin reaching out. Private collectors make inquiries. Suddenly the humble penny you nearly ignored becomes a financial opportunity most people only dream about. And here's the surprising truth. Thousands of people in the United States unknowingly hold rare coins in their possession right now. Coins inherited from parents. Coins tucked inside old piggy banks. Coins forgotten in storage boxes from decades ago. Most of them will remain unnoticed, a broken bar, simply because nobody took the time to look closely. But the few people who do pay attention, a broken bar, who examine their coins carefully, a broken bar, to learn the small details that separate common change from rare treasury, a broken bar. Those people sometimes discover something extraordinary. So tonight, before you dismiss the pennies in your house, ask yourself one simple question. What if one of those coins carries a hidden story, a broken bar, a minting error, a broken bar, a rare condition, a broken bar, a combination that collectors would pay millions to own? What if the penny everyone else ignored, a broken bar, is the one that changes everything? Because history has shown that the next legendary coin discovery rarely comes from a museum or a vault. It comes from someone ordinary, a broken bar, someone curious enough to take a second look. And somewhere out there right now, a broken bar, a 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a broken bar, flawless, rare, and unbelievably valuably broken bar, is still waiting to be found. Now before you dismiss this as another internet myth, stay with me for a moment, because what makes this penny extraordinary is not just its age. It's not even the design you've seen 1,000 times before. The secret lies in a tiny detail most people never notice, a broken bar, a detail so small that millions of valuable coins have been accidentally spent, thrown away, or left forgotten in jars across the country. And somewhere out there, a broken bar, another one, could still be waiting to be discovered. Think about this for a second. Every year in the United States, billions of pennies are produced. They pass through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and piggy banks. For most people, a penny is barely worth bending down to pick up. But occasionally, something unusual happens during the minting process, a broken bar, a mistake, a rare variation, a unique circumstance that transforms an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. And in 1968, something interesting happened. The year 1968 was a time of enormous change in America. The country was in the middle of political turmoil, cultural shifts, and historic events that shaped the future. Yet quietly, inside the minting presses where Lincoln pennies were produced, another story was unfolding, a broken bar, one that would take decades for collectors to fully understand. Most Lincoln pennies from that era carry a small mint mark beneath the date. That tiny letter reveals where the coin was produced, either Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. But the 1968 penny without a mint mark tells a slightly different story. At first glance, it looks completely normal. In fact, It's so normal that most people would toss it into their pocket without a second thought. But certain versions of this coin, a broken bar, especially those preserved in pristine condition or struck with rare characteristics, a broken bar, have stunned the coin collecting world. And here's where things start getting exciting, because in the world of rare coins, condition is everything. Two pennies from the same year can exist side by side, yet one might be worth 1 cent while the other could command thousands. A broken bar, even millions. Yes, millions. Now imagine the moment when a collector places a seemingly ordinary 1968 penny under a magnifying glass. The lighting shifts, the surface reveals sharp, untouched details. The copper gleams as if it just left the mint yesterday. The grading experts examine the edges, the luster, the microscopic marks, or more importantly a broken bar, the lack of them, and suddenly the room gets quiet, because when a coin survives for decades without wear, without scratches, without circulation damage, a broken bar, it enters a category known as mint state. The higher the grade, the rarer the coin becomes, and extremely high-grade examples of certain pennies have shocked the auction world. Collectors compete fiercely for the finest known examples. Wealthy investors treat rare coins as portable assets, historical artifacts, and status symbols all at once. When the right coin appears, a broken bar, the bidding war can become intense. But here's the twist most people don't realize. Some of the most valuable coins in existence were not discovered in museums or vaults. They were found in everyday places as a broken bar: kitchen drawers, inherited coin jars, forgotten safety deposit boxes. Imagine inheriting a small collection from a relative. Maybe it's nothing special at first glance, just old coins wrapped in paper or stored in plastic holders. But inside the collection could be a hidden treasure that collectors around the world would fight to own. That's exactly why experts constantly remind people to check their pennies carefully. Now let's pause for a second. When was the last time you actually looked closely at the pennies in your change? Be honest. Most of us treat pennies like background noise in our wallets. But what if one of them held a key to a life-changing discovery? What if the coin you almost dropped into a parking meter today could be worth thousands? A broken bar or more. It's happened before. In fact, stories of accidental discoveries appear in the news more often than you might think. Someone cleaning out a garage finds an unusual coin. A collector at a flea market spots a rare detail others missed. A child sorting through their grandfather's coins stumbles across something extraordinary. And each time, the same realization hits: a broken bar. This tiny piece of copper could change everything. Now, about that astonishing figure you may have heard circulating in collector circles: a broken bar. The idea that a 1968 Lincoln penny without a mint mark could be worth up to $4 million. Is that realistic? Well, the truth is fascinating. In the rare coin market, values are driven by a combination of factors: rarity, condition, demand, historical significance, and sometimes a unique minting anomaly. When a coin checks every one of those boxes, and when two wealthy collectors both want it badly enough, the price can skyrocket far beyond what anyone expected. And that's exactly why certain pennies have stunned the world with record-breaking valuations. A perfect storm of rarity and demand can push prices into territory that once seemed impossible for a 1-cent coin. Now imagine this scenario. A collector finally uncovers an exceptional 1968 no-mint mark penny preserved in nearly flawless condition. Experts confirm its authenticity. Grading agencies assign it an elite rating that places it among the finest known examples. Word spreads quickly through the collector community. Suddenly, major buyers are paying attention. Auction houses prepare for something extraordinary. And the question becomes: a broken bar, just how high will the bidding go? Because when a coin like that appears, it's not just about copper and history anymore. It's about prestige, competition, and the thrill of owning something almost no one else in the world possesses. But here's the part that should make every viewer lean a little closer to the screen. Coins like this don't always announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. They look ordinary, They feel ordinary, and that's exactly why so many people unknowingly spend them. Think about the millions of pennies circulating across the United States right now. Some are scratched and worn beyond recognition, but others a broken bar quietly preserved in drawers or drawers. A broken bar may still hold incredible potential, and one of them might be sitting just a few feet away from you, maybe in a coffee tin, maybe in an old piggy bank, maybe in a forgotten envelope labeled coins that hasn't been opened in years. Funny how something worth millions could be hiding next to rubber bands and paper clips, right? But that's the magic of coin collecting. History hides in the smallest places, and every once in a while broken bar someone uncovers it. Now imagine the moment when you start checking your own coins, one by one. You turn them over under the light. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln stares back. The date reads 1968. Your heart beats a little faster. You check below the date, and suddenly a broken bar. You realize there's no mint mark. Could it be just another common penny? Possibly, but it could also be something far more interesting. And that tiny moment of curiosity, that decision to look closer, is how extraordinary discoveries begin. Because the truth is, the coin market rewards patience and attention to detail. The collectors who succeed are the ones who slow down, examine their coins carefully, and learn to spot the subtle differences others miss. Those differences can mean the gap between 1 cent, a broken bar, and a life-changing opportunity. So the next time you receive change at the grocery store, a broken bar, pause for a second. Don't rush to toss the pennies aside. Take a closer look, because somewhere out there, another rare 1968 Lincoln penny without a mint mark may still be waiting to be found. And if history has taught collectors anything, it's the broken bar. The most valuable discoveries often come from the places no one thought to check, which means the next incredible coin story might not begin in an auction house or a museum. It might begin with someone just like you, a broken bar standing at a kitchen table, a broken bar holding a small copper coin, a broken bar, and realizing that something extraordinary has been hiding in plain sight all along.